Hey everyone, welcome to TableTakes presented by Gen Con. My name is Kristen and I'm joined today by Derek, Emma, and Bonsai.
Hello.
How's everyone doing today?
Pretty good.
Yeah,
Excellent.
That wasn't very...
Pretty good.
Okay, well, that's a very Derek answer. If you don't know Derek, that's his classic.
I'm fine.
That's that means
The
really
soft,
good, right?
sultry tones of Derek. How are you guys doing today? We've got chat up, so feel free to hit us up with your questions, your comments, and your takes on TableTakes today. With that, let's get into the news.
Yes.
So our first topic today, Bonsai is going to lead us on, which is kind of interesting, is all of those classic D&D computer games that we love to play, like I loved to play as a kid, are coming to console.
Yes, very exciting news. So if you guys are into computer RPGs or CRPGs, games like Baldur's Gate 1 and 2, Planescape,
Planescape 1.
Icewind Dale, and Neverwinter Nights, guess what? They're coming to all the game stations. So not just for PC, also for PS4, Xbox One, and the Nintendo Switch.
Do we know when those are coming out, Bonsai?
Yes, they do. So it's been announced that they will be releasing September 24th for the US, and then September 4 plus 7 is 27 for worldwide release. Math is hard. But the Winter Nights is actually going to be released a little bit later, December 3rd, and then the same kind of thing, December 5th is when it will roll out worldwide. So exciting.
So for fall through December, you can catch me in a hole in my house playing video games.
I got to get in on this. I think my only experience playing any of these games, because we were talking earlier I'm like, isn't that just, we were talking like which ones are specifically from the D&D world. I'm like, isn't that just any RPG game that came out in the 80s and 90s? Because I remember playing this game with my siblings. You were like walking down the like village things, and then you like tried to fight a rat, and you kept fumbling everything.
I mean, that sounds like a classic D&D computer RPG experience.
Yeah,
but
it's like we're like, I just want to hit the thing with my sword. It's like you fumble sword.
Pretty much all the clones of that time did the same thing too.
Yeah.
Maybe I can get back into it and actually figure out. We were very young back then too, so we're just like, I don't know.
Well, these are the classics, and like Planescape Torment is near and dear to my heart because I love Planescape. But I would love to see this remade with new rules, because the old AD&D rules are always kind of that wall that I hit.
A little crunchy.
When trying to play through the old game. The story is great, the world is wonderful, I love existing in it.
Yeah.
But you know, the interface, because a lot of these games are already out. Like they've been re-released for PC and they've been re-released for mobile. The exciting thing here is that like a whole new wave of people are going to be able to get into the old classics on consoles.
It doesn't sound like they're rewriting anything, though. It sounds like it's a port.
It is.
Yeah.
Actually,
It's a nice port, because I have the iPad one.
Well, for that, the Baldur's Gate 1 and 2 are actually going to get new content. They have been approved, so they're going to be adding on extras to make the tie-in between Baldur's Gate 1 and 2. Like, even though it was good, in my opinion,
bit more seamless?
More seamless. So you will get new content. So.
And that's smart of them because Baldur's Gate
Oh yeah,
3?
if you guys haven't seen that very nice family-friendly commercial about mind flayers and Ifrits, Baldur's Gate 3 is coming out, so that's exciting. Finally. So they are working now. It's not going to be like, you know, how the past Baldur Gates are like 2nd edition. This is going to be 5th edition rules and sets, so you don't have to deal with like the basically THCO.
Thaco and the different saving throws that are...
Yes, like math, reverse
Who knows
math
why?
that makes your head hurt. But yeah, they're going to be collaborating with the Larian Studios, who made, if you guys are familiar with Divinity 1 and 2, Original Sin kind of thing.
Which are both really, really well-received games. So like, it was kind of this crazy thing where I think I may have only played a demo of Divinity, but it felt like the old games, and people have been very, very happy with those games. They've been remarkably popular. And it's kind of neat that they were really kind of picking up that spiritual mantle of the old games, and they just kind of went off with their own IP. And now for them to, like, I guess, be blessed with now to play or to make the game that they clearly were inspired by originally, must be really satisfying for them. It's a really kind of just nice poetic moment.
It's a fun thing with the fandom here, because I actually do really like Divinity. I'm sorry if you can't tell.
With all the
with this graphic. They actually wanted to make this when they start, like Baldur's Gate 3, they wanted to make it as soon as they started with the first one. They were like talking to Wizards, and Wizards like, you haven't made the first game first.
pump the brakes.
Slowly roll before you try making Baldur's Gate 3. And then we'll see how it is. So.
Yeah.
Sure. So now it's coming out. So you know what? To your point, Derek, it's always interesting to. I'm not a huge fan of straight up remakes. Like it's fine, right? But it's not always that interesting. But something with a nostalgic feel that actually is new, totally into it. You know?
Yeah, I'm of two minds about it. On the one hand, like I love game history.
Yeah.
So I really am sad that a lot of old games are difficult to play in a way that's similar to their original. And
Sure.
on that level, I'm really happy that these old games, these enhanced editions that have come out, are really faithful, just re-releases of the old game.
Okay,
So you
that's
get
fair.
you get to kind of feel it at its time, and that like the kind of I guess the intellectual me likes that.
Yeah.
The I just want to play a good game is like, couldn't
Right.
you have updated it and like given me some high-res graphics or like a different control system or something?
Yeah.
So I'm at war within myself over this.
There's been a lot of learning for game development over the past 30, 40.
Yeah.
Some people would
4
argue
years.
no, but
There.
I would definitely support that.
Yeah.
I mean, I think there's an update in storytelling, right? The way that we connect players with the story is drastically changed. You know, I think
I agree.
in ways that we interact within a game. You
I
know,
think,
so
I think
it's-
storytelling techniques,
Yeah.
technology, game mechanics,
Yeah.
UI design.
UI,
like so
absolutely.
many things have
Yeah.
changed over the years in both tabletop RPGs
I was about to
and
say the exact
video
same thing.
games.
Yeah.
That that's part of why I love this kind of rush golden age of Kickstarter that we're in right now for RPGs, because so many old tabletop RPGs have gotten an update, and I
Right.
love seeing them brought in.
I'm waiting for that Ace of Aces update.
All right.
So I found really quick. I found an original Ace of Aces like flip, like board game. Well, it's not a board game, but it's a book game at Half Price Books the other day, and I was so
Oh.
excited that I just bought it. You
Nice.
know. And I brought it in, and no one will play it with me. So
What?
I know.
I'll play with you.
Okay, great. It's just
You
a
can
cool
play it.
piece of game history to
It
Derek's
is.
point. You know that I'm like, I wanna experience this. I wanna learn about it.
And
you know,
that's one of the
so.
benefits of tabletop games is that, because they don't need a particular console or service or whatever, or
Right.
computer or operating system to run, they are time capsules by their very nature. That's one of the
Absolutely.
amazing things about them. But like video games are much more sensitive to that.
Right.
So that's why I'm really happy that all this stuff is coming out for consoles so that people can grab it.
Yeah.
And it'll make a nice context for people to play a little bit before they get into Baldur's Gate 3, I think.
Yes.
Absolutely.
I predict a lot of people will be playing through it and having the nostalgia and then being frustrated with
Yes,
the old controls.
exactly.
Yes.
And then they will appreciate the changes that Baldur's Gate 3 brings that
Yeah.
much more.
Yeah.
Any other news on Baldur's Gate 3? What are the interesting points on that, Bonsai?
For the one, well, other than just like one big geek out about having the Ithrid mind flares in the trailer. Sorry, I just liked the look of it. They
Yeah,
actually,
that whole sequence was pretty gruesome.
It's
Yeah,
not
it-
actually family friendly.
It's not actually. I was being very sarcastic, so please do not watch that with your kids because it's great. But yeah, no, it's just more or less. It's the bigger thing about it is that if you are into what is it called, the descent to, sorry, with it sorry, into
Avernus.
Avernus. Sorry, I have a problem with that word.
That's fine.
Avernus.
Again, it's a Planescape word, so
It's a
I am
plane-
all in.
yeah.
on it.
Yeah,
So
Derek's
it's-
like,
All
I got
in.
this.
It takes place after you get sent into quote unquote D&D Mad Max.
Oh, right. Yeah.
So it's right after. It's like not in necessarily like super canon, but they did work with Wizards of the Coast to make it like, hey, if you like this as your campaign, play this
Well,
game.
because remember, one of the details of the Descent into Avernus thing that we talked about is it starts in Baldur's Gate.
Yep.
And there's this conspiracy to kind of suck the city into hell or something like that. So it sounds like, D&D has the tabletop campaign that's going to play through that, and then the next threat that might face Baldur's Gate, or this game will incorporate some of the repercussions of what happened in the tabletop campaign or something like that. This is just kind of like, this is what Wizards has been doing with their releases in 5th edition. I don't know if everybody has noticed, but they've been pushing the story of the year more than here is the product release. That's obviously part of it, but they have their tabletop game, they have all their computer games, they have all their licenses, and they're trying to keep them all down the same path. So when they decide that this year is going to be, going to hell, all the other stuff kind of ties into it somehow.
And smart, right?
Yeah.
All right.
It helps you kind of, the diehard fan gets to enrich their experience when they're seeing that same story reinforced in multiple places.
Good storytelling.
Wow,
Yeah,
it seems like Wizards of the Coast is really doing some multi-dimensional, multimedia storytelling.
They sure are. You want to tell us a little bit more about that, Emma?
Yeah.
Great.
So it's just been announced that the Russo brothers are working on a Magic the Gathering series. So a television series, or I guess it's Netflix television. I don't even know anymore. Netflix series.
Yes.
It's going to
It's a
be
network, right?
I think at this point, anything that is episodic and is shorter than 90 minutes is TV.
Dude, what are our words anymore?
What are our words anymore?
It's going to be animated. So for anyone who's been, like me, watching those War of the Spark trailers, like the Liliana trailer, just over and over again and feeling those feels, then hopefully they're going to capture a little bit of that.
Have you reached point of maximum feels yet, or are you still?
Maximum feels? Every time.
Okay.
I mean, there's just so much going on in that trailer. And if you know a little bit of the history of the characters, you're like, oh my gosh, I know why that happened. So it's, I'm getting the feels again
so
right
you're
now.
hoping that they're going to capture this. And I think, animation is the right route to go.
Yeah.
Right? I think there's been a couple attempts in the past to make a live action Magic. That is
actually,
a little cringeworthy.
Fox tried to bring Magic the Gathering to the big screen in 2014.
That's right.
I presume that was a live action. And I am a fan of live action game movies and shows. I really liked the World of Warcraft, or the Warcraft movie, and everyone else hated it, but
I support your enjoyment of it.
I loved the Super Mario Brothers movie.
right.
No,
me too.
All right, so we're gonna have to cut this off before it gets worse.
Or the first 5 minutes of the Super Mario Brothers Super Show. Remember that one?
The animated?
No, absolutely not.
Oh, wait.
It was animated, but the first 5 minutes were live action. Always. Yeah.
So,
But even
as a counterpoint, I would suggest that before we poo-poo live action in general, just consider how good the Marvel Cinematic Universe has been.
Absolutely.
So,
Yeah.
if this becomes popular enough to have the money poured behind it,
no,
then I think
we're
there's
just saying that
plenty
we
of
love
possibility.
live action.
So superheroes are going down. It's now time for the rise.
For the rise of the
Planeswalkers.
games. Rise of the games.
rise of the
But not only that, as an indicator, this is being produced by the Russo brothers, who directed Infinity War and Endgame.
Yes.
Right.
So, there's clearly a really strong push here behind this.
I think the most exciting thing is the director and co-producer is Yoriaki Machizuki, who is the one who did the Into the Spider-Verse animation.
Oh, so good.
So
Best Spider-Man movie. I'm just gonna lay that down.
Best superhero movie.
It was really good. The soundtrack was great. So
Yeah.
hopefully we can get similar. I'm sure we're going to get.
Yeah, but that was
Just as awesome.
kinetic, vibrant, gorgeously, and everything is superlative about that. So to have someone who is responsible for a lot of that animation helming this gives me a lot of hope and optimism about it.
Absolutely.
And also, one of the writers on the team, just to throw out there, is this Henry Gilroy, who made Star Wars Rebels and Clone Wars, the animated series. So
oh, nice, yeah.
that's also a note in my favor. They have some pretty. They look like they have a pretty robust team, and I hope it's not going to be like the movie that didn't come out called The Last Airbender.
I know about those. The movies that never exist.
They never existed.
Yeah.
I still haven't actually
Well-
inflicted that upon myself.
Yeah, because it's not real.
That was the first movie I ever got up and walked out of.
Oh,
got
yeah, I never
a
watched
refund.
it. I mean, I love Avatar, but I never watched the live action because it
Nope.
looked
Nope.
real bad.
Nope.
Well, so the other thing with the Magic, though, with the Magic series, is that we don't really know what they're going to cover.
Right.
I think they did state that they're not just going to adapt existing lore directly.
Yeah.
But it sounds like they do still want to refer to at least some of it, presumably because that's the whole point of making a Magic series.
Well, the characters, I mean, you have the Planeswalkers, and even Wizards of the Coast. I mean, they've thrown these poor Planeswalkers all over their multiverse, right? Like, they are totally, they may put them on a dinosaur planet, they put them on an ancient Egypt planet, so they could pretty much do anything at this
But
point.
like,
Yeah,
it sounds like they're not going to film, Eldrazi Cycle or the Gatewatch. They're not going to adapt that. Those characters certainly could have cameos, but it sounds like maybe they'll invent a new batch of Planeswalkers. I imagine. We'll see.
think?
Maybe.
I don't think so. I don't think so.
Well, they showed Chandra, I think, on the teaser art, so they might have some. They're probably gonna have a lot of creative license, I would imagine.
Moving on to more news. I know we could geek out about magic and animation and superheroes and all that forever. However, we do have an entire show to get through. So let's move on
An
to
entire show.
an entire
Entire
show.
show.
Hyper Light Drifter.
So, speaking of tabletop games becoming video games, what if a video game became a tabletop game?
What?
And what if that game was an indie hit with an amazing art style
No.
called
Yes.
Hyper Light Drifter? I'd buy that for $1 or more.
Or more.
Or more.
So Hyper Light Drifter, if anybody's not familiar, was a huge success on Kickstarter. It was one of the big indie video games that kind of found success on Kickstarter, and I think kind of pushed or led that charge for indies on Kickstarter and elsewhere. So it was at the forefront of the rising tide of indie video games. It was super hard. It was an action game, not really isometric, but kind of a mix between top-down and from an angle.
Yeah.
But the art style was absolutely gorgeous.
It's weird.
Yeah, it's pixel art,
But it's good.
hyper saturated colors, super lots of pinks, purples.
And it is hard AF.
Yes.
Like,
And it was just set in this really far future kind of. They don't really explain a lot of what's going on. You just kind of live in this weird immersive world. The soundtrack is fantastic, very moody, very 8-bit.
Yeah.
Really, really gorgeous game that I can't beat well because I think I got past the first bird boss. And then I'm wandering around and I can't figure out where to go. I love it.
Yeah.
But I'm just not good enough at it.
I just watch other people play it.
Yeah, same thing. It's a game that I would probably rage quit.
Yep.
I am a very rage quit.
I need to go back and try the new super easy mode. Just to try to get through and explore the world. And when they came out with multiplayer, I was really hoping I could just phone a friend who was good and have them play through it online with me.
Oh, yeah.
that's
But it's
actually
only local.
Oh, yeah.
So now I have to convince my good friend to come over. It's much more difficult. But anyway.
I mean, I really wonder here, because so much of it is the pulsing action, the speed, the dexterity, and the music, you know. I wonder
how do you bring that?
Yeah, how exactly that's going to translate to tabletop.
That I'm really curious about it because it's actually interesting that we mentioned Dark Souls a little bit, and that I think in a lot of ways this game is similar to that. It's super hard. The storytelling is really kind of just in the world. It's not very direct to the player. Yep. It's kind of there if you want it to be, and otherwise it's just a difficult action game.
Yeah.
The style is completely different, but a lot of the methods with which it implements it is very similar.
Yes.
And it's interesting that Metal Weave Games is the tabletop company that has the license to produce tabletop games, which we'll talk about in a minute.
Yeah.
But they did a Kickstarter for Embers of the Forgotten Kingdom, which was a system neutral setting / inspirational thing that was admittedly they just inspired by Dark Souls.
Yes.
And it was like take a bunch of the Dark Souls bosses and take that aesthetic and make them into NPCs or gods or something that you would have in a D&D fantasy world. And it was a gorgeously produced book. And they were very, very, because I backed it, and they were very nice through the process, and they were very nice people.
So Metalweave Games, are they the ones that are developing it, or are they
They're
producers?
the tabletop folks, so they're the ones developing and publishing it.
Okay, and publishing as well.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah, like
interesting.
I mean, it's usually very rare in tabletop that you'll have one company kind of producing it, another company publishing it. It happens a couple times. There's a couple design studios, but that usually almost never happens with RPGs. At least tabletop RPGs.
And you were saying for the RPG, it's presumed, but it could also go in another direction, like the Dark Souls board game, with just a bunch of minis.
They have confirmed that it's an RPG.
Okay.
They will be coming out with an RPG. But I just feel with the way that press release is phrased, it doesn't say, hey, we got the license to produce an RPG. It doesn't say we got the license to produce the RPG. It says we have the license to produce tabletop games.
Tabletop games, yeah.
So, like, I'm really intrigued with where that will go just because I love that art so much. Like, this was the project that I saw, and like I immediately was like, I don't care how terrible I am at this game. I am backing at the level that gets me the art book. I have the vinyl soundtrack that is like this weird neon 1980s cyberpunk unfolding thing. It's all.
You have a record player?
Yes. I have multiple records too.
Wow, that's so neat.
Apparently, a lot of people have record
I
players
love
now.
the way that they sound, honestly, but I don't have room.
Yeah, if you're a big audiophile.
The record player I have it's portable and has speakers built into it.
Oh,
So it's literally just one box for the record player, one box for the records, and it fits.
Interesting.
You'd be surprised.
Interesting.
But I'm really intrigued that Metalweave might do other things as well.
Yeah.
Just because the game is so gorgeous, I would love to see it expressed in other ways.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
I'm intrigued. Hyperlight Drifter is fantastic.
Right.
I love the setting. I love the style. It's very different. Metalweave Game has produced a number of really good Kickstarters. There was Embers of the Forgotten Kingdom that I mentioned. There's also Baby Bestiary, which sounds like
Bestiary.
Just look it up. Look up your baby owlbears.
there was Baby Bestiary 1 and 2. It's one of those things that we were walking around at Gen Con with my wife, and I showed it to her, and she's like, "Yes, buy that." So it is literally
I will
just
have that.
It is a monster
One of
manual,
each.
except all
Baby
cute
Bestiary.
animal arts.
Gosh, I want
Well,
that
neat.
now.
So I'm really looking forward to that. It'll be really interesting to see how they adapt that for sure.
Yes.
Now, we have a lot of news about going back and forth between digital and tabletop and tabletop and digital.
Yep.
And with that, Gloomhaven is going on Steam.
Yeah. The digital version is entering early access July 17th, so that's coming up very quickly. So there's actually a reveal stream for this. Was it the stream just yesterday? Or?
Yes, it was
Yeah.
released just yesterday.
Yeah.
So
So you can, and they just play through a lot of the content. They also do it from a beginner's perspective. So you can, whether you're an experienced player or a beginner, you can kind of get a sense of what the game is going to offer. The early access and the version that they showed on the stream is single player only. With the caveat that early access multiplayer is very difficult to implement. I know from my background. So they're saying that's something like, I guess if the early access is successful and proceeds according to plan, that they are planning to add the multiplayer into there. I will say from watching it from my experiences playing Gloomhaven, what I really enjoyed and made it stand out for me as a game wasn't just the dungeon crawler, it was that just very tight multiplayer mechanics, mostly cooperative, but with your hidden goals, so you can kind of mess stuff up for other people. I think there's a very rich characters and lore there, but I'm definitely interested to see how it plays without that multiplayer aspect.
Well, one of the things they specifically mentioned is that this is an early access because this is not going to be a complete version of the game at all.
Yeah.
Again, it's only single player. Apparently, they're just going to be developing almost encounter by encounter through Gloomhaven because Gloomhaven is so big and massive that it's going to take a long time for them to complete it. So they're going into early access with like the bare minimum to launch and then are hoping to expand out quickly from there.
Yeah, but I mean, that makes me wonder, is single player the bare minimum for that? Is that going to be enough to catch people? You know, if they're going to have, and I looked a little bit at the gameplay, and it did kind of look like they were doing the spells, so there could definitely be something there. But will it hook people without that multiplayer aspect? I think will be interesting to see.
There's been a big market for single player RPG games, though, so it might be also catering to that, and then you can have later on when they develop it more, an option to do 2 players.
Yeah,
you know.
I also wouldn't be surprised if people dip into it to learn how to play Gloomhaven before they have to go play with their friends.
Yeah, I mean I mean for me that's the biggest draw for digital games for digital tabletop games, right? Is that from the comfort of my own home, without damaging my ego at all, I can go learn a game, figure it out, at least have most of it figured out, so that when I go, I feel more confident in myself.
But by the same token, I think that part of the reason this is so intriguing is that Gloomhaven is not a cheap game.
Yes.
Right.
And until very recently, it is not an easy game to even find to buy.
Right. That's
so
true.
To have a digital version that is much cheaper, that allows you to learn how to play, or to find out if you want to buy the game.
Yeah.
Like that's also hugely powerful to me, because on the one hand, more people will be able to experience the game and find out if whether they like it or not. And just more people playing the game is always better.
Yes.
And then some of those folks will then know whether or not they should go buy and make a pretty big investment into a much larger game, and they'll be more confident in doing that, which is only good.
Larger, yes. The thing is freaking heavy. It weighs like 25 pounds. Working in retail, lugging those up and down the stairs. You're welcome.
So I hear the official retail stance is go buy digital instead.
No, well, I mean, we love selling it, obviously. It's a great seller for us, but yeah, it's heavy to lug around. You know?
It was super hard to
game.
find for a really long time.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of RPGs, we have Free RPG Day coming up, which is really exciting. So who's going to talk about this? It's kind of an interesting topic. Great, Derek.
So
tell us about Free RPG Day, what it is, because we might not have folks we might have folks who haven't attended before, like myself. And what it is.
So if you aren't familiar, Free RPG Day is where game stores have basically bought into this program, and they're shipped a box that has a bunch of promo material to give out to players.
Okay.
And it's patterned off of Free Comic Book Day, you know, where there were special comics that were produced. If you go buy something, you can get one of the free comics. And a similar idea is usually applied for most stores, although stores can kind of administer it how they want to.
Yeah.
Really. But you know, they've bought a box. It's got a bunch of preview material. It's got some dice. It's got some components. It's got maybe a couple samples of products that are going to come out soon.
Yep.
Okay.
So it's kind of an excuse on June 15th to go to your local store, see what's new, see what's coming out, maybe buy something from the store and then get a free thing. Kind of the noteworthy things for this year is Dungeon Crawl Classics has a quick start and adventure. So if you haven't played that game and you kind of want to get into an old retro style, like very random, weird and deadly kind of D&D.
Well, it's super fun. Your
weird and
characters
deadly, that's what they
start
call
at
me.
level. Your characters start at level 0. So
Yep.
the first time I played this, 5 minutes off, I tried to open a door and my face melted off.
Yep.
Well, so you get 5 characters. So it's
Yes.
okay if one of them dies because you're kind of cycling through them.
Is it kind of like a roguelike?
Yeah. Well, whoever makes
almost.
it through kind of becomes level 1
Yeah.
thematically in the story.
It's like that in the sense that it's the same kind of I guess family of thing where like
Yeah.
a lot of times people will run what's called a funnel for Dungeon Crawl Classics, where it's like show up with 1 million characters, we'll see who can get through the meat grinder, and then that is the character you care about.
I've
now.
never played DCC before, but I've always been interested. So this might actually be a great opportunity for me to go to my friendly local game store and pick up some easy adventures. What else do we have?
There's also going to be adventures for Starfinder, for Pathfinder.
Also really want to get into Starfinder.
For
All right,
kids,
I'm in.
Well, so it's worth noting, I think that Starfinder and Pathfinder are just adventures, not quick start and adventures. So I
okay.
think Dungeon Crawl Classics is going to allow you to just take that
And just go.
try it.
Okay.
I suspect, like I don't have the full details on this, but I'm pretty sure that Starfinder, Pathfinder, and Kids on Bikes,
Yes.
which is basically the Stranger Things RPG.
Yes.
Those 3, I believe, have adventures. They didn't specify whether they were quick start or not. The Witcher RPG has what is labeled as easy mode, which I presume is a quick start adventure.
Or something.
So
Yeah.
if it's easy mode, it should be
Well,
like,
I mean,
hey,
if-
here's the
It would make
character.
sense.
Yeah.
If I were these companies, and if the point of Free RPG Day is to get more people hooked into your game, I would make it as easy as possible.
Yeah.
So I imagine that most of these have everything you need to play a small or mini or some kind of
Yeah.
adventure, right?
Some of them, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
or other ones like you do need a group of people to play with. So
sure.
sometimes it's just like
You need
here's
friends.
an adventure for you to help bring new people in.
Yeah.
Well, it could also be, just picking it up at the store. You get it, or your kids get it, where you just start reading it. I mean, you can read these, page through it, and that might be your first real, physical, I kind of like the vibe of what's going on here. So even if you can't play the game, just getting the feel of it can be valuable.
There's also a couple other things like there's a Starfinder dice set that should be available. So you'll want to check with your
What
local
just happened?
store.
I have a thing for dice. So don't
You'll
worry
want to
about
check
it.
with your local store to
can
figure
get
out
a
how they're running it.
Yeah.
Because some of these things are in really limited quantities. Like
Yes.
Yeah.
stores will have 3 copies of one thing, 5 copies of another, that kind of thing. So check with the store. Some stores will require you to buy something and then you get something free.
Yeah.
Some might require you to participate in a demo or something like that. But check with your local store, see what they're doing. I think Mox is in the chat talking about how they're going to be running like a bunch of different indie RPGs.
Nice.
So it's just
Yeah.
it's a good excuse for the store to do something neat for people to get involved in.
Yeah.
So find out what the store is doing, and maybe you'll be able to pick up some free stuff at
And
the same
you
time.
still have about a week, so you could call them up and then see they supply and demand. If they find out there's more people that are willing to come, they might order more. So you might, because they only get so much. It's
Yeah.
still enough time to be like, hey, can you get this? And also, I like these kind of events because when I was younger, I didn't really have a lot of friends.
We're all nerds.
on the
Totally
weekend.
get it. Yep. Yep.
So one of basically gaming stores and stuff is how I met a lot of them.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
I was just like, yeah.
I spent my weekends at so if you didn't know, Wizards of the Coast used to have retail locations. And I spent my weekends there for sure. Just as a lonely, nerdy, freckled, red-haired kid.
In rural New Hampshire, we had to go into town to find a store. So
Right,
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah.
I had intermittent visits.
I bet.
In Maine, that would have been quite a trek to get to any local game store. It would have been nice.
I was in Maine for a while
yeah.
too.
Yeah.
Well, can I talk about related news, kind of a tangential
Sure,
free RPG
sure, sure.
news
Yeah.
really quick?
I
I
need to
imagine
hijack
y'all
my
know what I'm about to slide into here. So like free RPG J, Gen Con is presenting pop-up Gen Con.
Yes.
So it's a pop-up event at friendly local game stores across the country, which is very I'm very excited about it. Even as not an employee of the company, I'm like, that's so sick. So we'll be bringing games that are releasing at Gen Con to local game stores. You'll be able to play them and pre-order them as well. For this pilot year, we can only do just the play and pre-order, but as long as these events are well attended, next year we're planning on expanding. So more
Nice.
game stores across the country, hopefully more game stores across the world.
Yeah.
And also getting more into that Gen Con experience as well. So if you've never been to Gen Con, let me wrap this up really quick for you. We're different from other conventions because we have 17,000 events over the course of the weekend. We are
Yeah.
a 24-hour convention, so from Wednesday night to Sunday evening, there is something happening. So whether you want to play RPGs, play board games, craft unicorn horns, which I'm excited about. I'm gonna sneak
Or
away
make a
for
taco
that.
puppet. I made a
Dude.
taco puppet last
Learn
week.
how to fight blindfolded is what we had last
Stick
spring.
fighting, laser tag, we have the brewery tours. There's just such a wide gamut of events at Gen Con, and so hopefully we can start bringing those events to local game stores next year as well. But this year, it includes, like I said, playing and pre-order games. You get a cool Pathfinder lanyard provided by Paizo. You get a commemorative badge with Genevieve on it, our mascot dragon, and an exclusive pin as well from Pin Bazaar. Those really nice pins that you get, at Disney and everything. So those are coming. So if you want to collect pins, if you just want to check out new games that won't actually hit retail for another 3 to 9 months
Yeah,
after
yeah.
Gen Con, this is going to be the event for you. So, like I said, kind of just like Free Comic Book Day, kind of like Free RPG Day, you're going to get some cool stuff. Registration's only $5. It gets you in. So check out gencon.com/pop-up. And our lovely producer Dominic can get that in the chat for us if he hasn't yet.
Get on it.
Wow, Derek.
Thank you.
And thank you, Dominic. Thank you. And yeah, so check that out. We've got over 40 stores across the country right now, 2 in the UK. So hopefully there's one by you, but if there's not, next year.
So June 15th, which is next weekend, not this weekend.
Yes.
Free RPG Day. Go to your local game store, see what they're doing.
Yes.
Get involved.
Yep.
And then first weekend of August, check our website to see if there's a store near you that is doing pop-up Gen Con. And then again, go to your local game store and get involved.
Yeah,
This is
absolutely.
a sort of a thing, having worked at Mox, like if you talk to them about it, like talk to the staff, call them up, ask if they're going to be doing this, whether or not it's something they're able to do this year, the more they hear about it and the more they hear customers being excited about it, the more likely it is. So like you have the ability to make these things happen at your local game store.
Absolutely. All right, well, moving on from exciting
From good news.
Joy to sadness.
Joy to sadness. I know. Sorry, I don't have a good
The
transition
roller
for this.
coaster that is this episode.
I know. Emma, tell us a little bit more
About
about
the retail
tariffs.
So let's talk about tariffs and paper sourcing. That sounds exciting, right?
Ooh.
Ooh, tell me more. So we had talked, I think, a couple weeks ago about the potential coming tariffs, taxes on games and game-related products being shipped from China. So we were kind of unsure back then when we were talking about it. We still don't have solid data, but it definitely seems like this is moving forward. And unfortunately, this has the potential to really affect the prices and even change the landscape of what we know and love as
It's going to
tabletop
have a huge
gaming.
impact on who is even capable of producing games. I think.
Yes, absolutely. And so what this is basically a lot of politics and government going into this, but there's apparently a trade war going on. So I guess not
Between the
as-
U.S. and China.
Yeah,
Yes.
not as bad as the other type of war, but still not great if you want
Financial
to.
impact for sure.
Yeah, financial impact. So right now there's like a 25% tariff, maybe already in effect, maybe going into effect in June, maybe later. There's not a ton of information, but it definitely looks like it's going to happen. It could get worse potentially over time. And there's also a few other things going on that could potentially affect the prices of board games.
Yeah, in the background news of things, like right now, I don't know if you know, a lot of paper mills used to produce a lot of the raw material for all these paper products have either closed down or switched to making cardboard boxes instead because the higher demand versus board games and paper products. It's been sharply increasing. Paper used to be like a standard, like solid but since 2018, it's been going whoop, because of all of these various different changes, like basically just lack of mill capacity. And
Yeah, I think one statistic in the link that you shared was like a 25% increase on just the
That's
cost of paper
significant.
in 2 years.
Yes,
Yep.
25% increase. So if you take into account these tariffs with the paper mill industry going down, that is potentially for people who produce games and produce board games. That's a 50% increase to
Ouch.
production
costs.
For production costs. And this is, like you might say, with any of this sort of stuff, I think that instinct is kind of bury your head, well, hopefully it's not going to affect me, but we're already seeing the effects of
Right.
this. So Mike Selinker did a great article on Polygon about the effects of this. I have a lot of friends who are game designers who are in the process of fulfilling Kickstarters, and I'm already starting to see notifications like Kickstarters can always have delays, but now it's specifically like, oh, they ran out of this black core paper, and now we have to be in negotiations for this other type of cardstock.
And then
or
if those negotiations take too long, then the product doesn't ship before the tariffs are applied.
Yep.
Yes.
And if the tariffs weren't calculated in your initial Kickstarter goals.
So we've got a web of issues, it sounds like, that are kind of coming together at once to
Yeah.
really affect production of board games, which will probably affect costs as well. So what can we do?
What frustrates me is that, I'm in a position where if I need to pay some more for some board games I'm going to buy, I can do that.
Yeah.
Like, but not everybody can.
Yes.
But even more worrying to me is that this is going to raise the floor, the minimum barrier of entry for someone to be able to produce
to make a game.
Because if the cost of games goes, to produce something just increases this much, then that means that your Kickstarter or your initial capital or whatever else you have has to be that much higher. So, the large companies will be able to deal with this. They're not going to like it. It's not going to be great for them. Those costs will have to be passed on to the consumers who might buy less of those games, but they still have a path through. But the people who don't have the initial capital to get over that hurdle are just now not going to be able to bring us some cool, new, random, weird game that we may have fallen in love with.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's gonna, I feel like, here's my hot take, or my prediction rather, is that it's probably gonna refocus the board game industry so that it's less, I'm gonna put my indie game on Kickstarter, and more back to what we've seen traditionally is people pitching their game to companies that can already afford to make it.
Yeah, and one other thing about that, as someone who does a lot of pitching, is that narrows the scope because people want to, like publishers have established lines. They want to do things that are more tried and true, as opposed to these indie designers, these indie publishers who can take a little bit more risk. So I definitely feel there is the chance of that, and also for a lot of these people fulfilling on Kickstarter, there's very much expectations of things. So there's like the $10 level, there's like the $29 level, and all of these are like, you have an expectation of a certain level of game at a certain price, and it's not so, you have these price bars basically that people expect something to cost, and if that has to go up by $5, $10, then that could definitely
impact the market.
Yeah. And if people switch more towards pitching games to publishers, then that means that the only people that we're going to see games from are the people that A, publishers like to hear from, or B, know how to talk to publishers.
Yes.
So there's also going to be that whole market of people who, again, might have had a weird idea that we haven't seen before, and might have brought it to Kickstarter by themselves, and now we may just not see that game, which, that's just very disappointing to me. So...
Well, so the thing, it's not all doom and gloom. I think it's very important to be aware of this. I don't think the right reaction is to stress out about it and never buy any more games.
Yeah.
I think as a designer, as someone looking to go to Kickstarter, someone making their own projects, cost things out, start to talk to people, look at different places where you can get things produced, use different types of materials. I mean, it sucks that you have to have these limitations, but I think being aware of them, there's potentially other things you can do. And of course, as always with these kind of things, talk to your representatives. This isn't a thing. Prices change over time naturally. Sometimes it's just going to happen, and it's kind of unfortunate. But this is a decision by one person to kind of screw over the rest of us for no reason. So that's definitely something that you can fight back against.
What's interesting is that, speaking of paper mills having trouble fulfilling, is that we might see some more sustainable industries step in to take over. I mean, what about making cards out of bamboo? What about hemp? And there's a lot of other industries that I think we can tap into that are a little bit more sustainable, that this might end up being the right push that we need to get into something a little bit more sustainable for creating paper products.
It's quite possible, but those first steps into a change for an industry are usually not cheap. So
it's got to happen.
It's gonna be difficult either way.
Yeah. Trees are not a easily renewable resource, unfortunately. So, all right. Well, that's all we have for headlines today. Sorry to end it on a sad and sour note. However, we're going to have our Kickstarter queen, Derek, talk about some interesting Kickstarters that you should be excited about.
Speaking of the impact on Kickstarters, so we have a number of Kickstarters that we're going to go through. The first one is a pretty short-run project. It's only got 1 day left. It's Tussie Mussy by Elizabeth Hargrave, the designer of Wingspan, which some of you may have heard about recently.
I think she might be a fan. Are you a fan?
Maybe.
I haven't played it yet. Come on.
Yeah, I played Tussie Mussy. I played the print and play because it's being produced by Button Shy. Well, Button Shy Games, just
Button Shy is really neat.
I can't say enough good things about how amazing they are with their Kickstarters. Their games are mostly in the wallet line games, where they're 18-card games, come in a really nice like plastic case. So
like
very
two of my favorites for them, Pod X by Daniel Salas.
Yeah.
Is my absolute like favorite 3-player deduction game.
yeah.
3.
It have to have 3 players. It's really intriguing, but
No
like,
less, no more.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You need 3 players, and it's a deduction game, and it's fantastic.
Well, talking about being able to do unique things, because, I mean, it's a very strict limitation, 18 cards. It's very hard to design to, but I've seen such a variety in there, like 3-player games, 6-player games, flipping dexterity games. Like, they do so much cool stuff with this. And they also usually make the games like a low-color version available on the Kickstarter. Go to PNP Arcade and just print it off and play it to see if you want to buy it.
That's cool.
So,
Nice.
yeah, you can try before you buy. And I tried it. It's very fun. It's got, it doesn't play like Love Letter, but it has a similar kind of flow to it. So you feel very kind of organic, and you're just doing the actions, and there's like a very tight strategy to it too.
So what is it about, though? I didn't quite catch that.
Oh, the theme is amazing. It's Victorian era flower meanings.
Yes.
So in the Victorian era, you would give someone flowers, and it wouldn't just be like, oh, it's your birthday. It's like, these flowers mean I have a secret crush on you. Or these flowers mean you've betrayed me.
Oh.
So they all have like, there's a book of Victorian flower meanings, and it says that on the card too. So it might say like, I love you. So you give someone a card, and you have the spirit of the game is to say, it's like, I love you.
Further, the mechanic is an I cut, you choose kind of thing.
Yes.
So you will take 2 cards and you'll offer them to another player, one face up and one face down, and they get to pick which one, and you get the other one, and you add it to like your tableau for scoring.
Okay.
So it kind of reminds me of like Cockroach Poker and some other games that are very much like the risk reward of, do I give you the card that you want, so that the card that I want I'll get and score, or am I going to how am I going to predict how you're going to react, which is neat. But I do have the feeling of some people being like, well, if I offer you 2 cards and one is face up and it tells you what I feel about you on the card, I wonder how many people are going to role play their actions.
Yeah, I mean, that's right in the campaign. That's like a core part of it. And it's a fun thing to like say these kind of things to people. It's like, you are beautiful.
Well, so
Those kind of things.
somebody in chat mentioned Arboretum, and another thing I want to mention with Tussie Mussie is that the art is really, really nice, because it really reminds me of like a botanical textbook, or like a field guide that you would see of somebody who was recording the plant life in a region. It has that very like crisp, like slightly faded, not quite pastel kind of color. It's really, really striking look.
It sounds nice.
And what I like about this game is that like it's like very easy to get into. The whole game is pretty much explained in 85 seconds. In the
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I
That's
wonder
great.
if they're going to be scented though. I'm kind of down if they were scented cards.
Like scratch and sniff?
Scratch and sniff. Like
Yeah.
That should be a level.
that
It
should
should
be
be.
in
It
a
comes
set.
with
Jason, if
a
you're watching
perfume,
this,
too.
Yeah.
add the
So it has
perfume level.
1 day left. So
Yeah.
if you're interested in checking that out, go ahead and hit the link in chat. Take a look. This next Kickstarter, I'm a little bit worried about. What is this, Derek?
This is
what is this?
yet another Kickstarter for non-IP infringing fantasy football murder leagues. So this one, though, it has it's included here just because the scopes are really gorgeous. They're really dynamic, and they're also not super football-y. Like there's no like grid or anything. There's no like face mask or anything like that. So if you actually just kind of want a bunch of like lizard men or toad warriors or a bunch of female barbarians, or if you want an entire squad of tiny little crocodile jerks, like fat crocodile baby jerks, then you can buy those too. So like the scopes are really gorgeous. They're really neat. I love them. I would totally have backed it. I was convincing my wife to get it and finally agreed, and then I realized they were all metal. I don't know if I can do that. But
What's wrong with metal? It sounds heavy.
I'm not comfortable. I mean, like I've only been in this miniature hobby for a couple of years. I'm not comfortable diving into metal. It's resin itself
too
is
far.
annoying enough to deal with. So, however, if you're a little more experienced, these sculpts are really neat.
I mean, if they're metal, it sounds like it.
I mean, I just like the details on the Amazonian ladies.
Oh, yeah.
Like, so if you just want a group of Amazons
Yeah.
to like have as like, haha, I am the DM, and you find a group of Amazons.
Yep.
Yeah.
Sure.
And these are really cool, like barbarian, raging, like fist fighting kind of berserkers.
Yeah.
And they'd be perfect for that. But again, like, I don't know what it is about the Blood Bowl sculpts, but it feels like maybe it's because they don't have weapons, and they all have a vaguely similar uniform that drives the creators of these to give them really dynamic poses.
Yeah.
Like there's no I'm standing with my weapon or I'm holding, like there's none of the typical very
they're, like,
static
fighting.
poses.
Yeah.
These
Okay.
like
Interesting.
they're fighting, they're running, they're jumping, they're tumbling. It's really
Interesting.
exciting.
Yeah. They're writing.
I will say I realized that when I put together my Kill Team Tyranids, like there was kind of pictures on the box, but they were kind of like this, like this. I'm like, but their arms go this way, so mine are all breakdancing. They're all kind of like doing cool stuff.
Now I want to fight a match against you breakdancing Tyranids. Please tell me you're going to paint them all like super 80s neon.
I think have pink was going to be my color. There's some bright
Right.
colors
That's
in
a good
there,
start.
obviously. Yeah.
Good start. We need to sculpt little green stuff sneakers on them too. Oh my god. Anyway.
So
I love that.
they're metal and they're metal. It
Yes.
sounds like
Metal,
All right.
yes.
Metal.
Cool.
But if you it's very cool female barbarians, very cool lizard folk, very cool toad folk, and then there's like a bunch of smattering of kind of other minis in there. Very, very neat. If you're comfortable working with metal, check these out.
All right, great. Our next Kickstarter is Good Society. Want to tell us a little bit about
If
this?
you may be a fan, you dental folk,
I feel like you need
Jane
a fan
Austen.
right now.
Yeah.
This is my fan. Oh, thank you. 2 days left on this Kickstarter, The Good Society. This is a game based off of the Jane Austen universe to role play in there. But they also was like, hey, do you want mystery and magic in there? Boom. Now you can do that. I've actually mostly watched other people play this on Geek Space TV, a local station that does a lot of things like that. And it's basically also if you want to go ahead and role play Downtown Abbey. This is the game, or Downton Abbey.
Downton Abbey.
But
But
yeah.
that's why they have the Downtown at the Abbey expansion.
Oh.
Yes. But yeah, no, it's very social gameplay, role playing. So you can go ahead and help or hinder a player by starting gossip and rumor and slander. So it's definitely a game if you are into this Victorian style world and want to go, did you hear? It's all about the social combat, and I'm really into the social combat types of games.
Yeah, this definitely seems like this is the social/political intrigue RPG with a heavy emphasis on the players collaborating together. And then I think the just running through the name of the expansions that they're trying to put in print kind of makes it clear what they add. You have Downtown at the Abbey. You have Emma Forget Me Not, which is starring you.
Yeah.
Can't forget you.
Starring Emma Larkins.
There's also Pride, Prejudice, and Practical Magic. Sense, Sensibility, and Swordsmanship, and the Fake Court.
Fake Court.
Fake hordes.
But yeah, definitely they do. It's just the artwork in general is not necessarily very detailed, but it's very cartoony and easy to get to, kind of those classics. And they do have card expansion packs. So this is just having the original game they kickstarted in 2018, just expanding on what they already have and give you extra gimmies essentially.
Yeah, so this had come out previously. This Kickstarter is specifically for the expansion material, to putting that in print.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you also get the original game with this?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
So it's like, hey, I didn't get the original game last time, but now it's like, hey, you want everything
Nice.
plus extra? So
We got you.
we got you.
Bonsai, did you hear that Kristen went to the bakery this morning?
She did.
Yes. You know who is at the bakery?
Who's at the bakery?
The baker.
The baker.
So that's
she
the
had
game,
a
basically.
guardian. Did she have a guardian?
That sounds like
with
fun.
her? Yeah.
All right, I'll have to check that out. That sounds fun. Our next Kickstarter is called the 100 Tori. You want to tell us a little bit about that, Derek?
So if you are a fan of Takedo, I think this game is going to really kind of hit a similar mark. It's a tile-laying game. You're building out a Japanese-themed garden that has a lot of tori spread through it, a lot of other Japanese religious kind of elements in the garden, and you are trying to establish paths from one landmark to another and pass by other like NPCs, I guess for lack of a better word, that are in the garden, to talk with them, to kind of help them. But it's all like a very like calming, soothing atmosphere. It doesn't seem like it's hyper competitive. So
You know what that also sounds like?
What?
Let's make a bus route.
Yes, actually, I did think of Let's Make a Bus Route in this sense, but it's definitely not a roll and write.
Okay.
But it has that similar element of going from landmark to landmark, trying to plan a route, because it seems like you want to make the longest route and also pass by certain things to kind of pick up experiences along the way as you traveled. And that's where it really reminds me of Takedo, where Takedo is a very like non-directly competitive game that's about getting this kind of experience and collecting the experience and enriching yourself on your journey, and not necessarily having the most money at the end of the game or eliminating your opponents.
I like Takedo. I feel like you have this wrong idea about me, Derek.
Maybe it was because when you said you hate co-op games and you love competitive games and you want to crush all your opponents before you, that may have given me the wrong impression.
I can still crush people in Takedo, just not
you're taking the
directly.
wrong lesson away from Takedo.
You can be multidimensional. You can enjoy crushing people and also just beautiful, serene journeys.
Thank you, Emma.
As long as you're not traveling with anybody and helping them. That is too far.
It is too far,
Yeah,
that's
don't
definitely
I do
too far.
wonder if this game is going to have more fantasy elements, because symbolically the Torii is a gateway to the other realm, and so maybe that would be some of the things you meander through. But maybe it's just like, let's make a beautiful walkway simulator.
It seems a little bit more like almost like a touristy kind of game. Like you're trying to create this enriching journey through it. It doesn't seem like it's touching on supernatural stuff too much.
But I think I will say for the video, I usually don't watch Kickstarter videos because there's a mixed bag.
But also it's a good way to lose money.
Depending on it. I mean, I'll look through the things, and often the videos will make me not want to back it. Because they'll just be like confusing or awkward. I'm like, they really need a video editor for this. All sorts of things. But I will say for this one, it was like 30 seconds, and it's all just gameplay. Like I looked at it, I'm like, that's the game. That's great. I love that.
It was very nice and focused.
Yeah.
So it sounds like it has 3 days left. Monday, June 10th is the last day for that. If that sounds like something you or someone you know would like, I think that'd probably make a really nice gift as well. So go ahead and click on that link and chat. Next one is I believe it's Ikeon.
Ikeon,
I
who knows?
So tell us this one.
All right, that's how you just.
In many ways, it also seems to be the thematic opposite of what we just talked about.
Oh, yeah.
Because this is our weekly honorary capital K, capital B, G Kickstarter board game.
Kickstarter game, got it.
So it's a Kickstarter game. It's got a bunch of minis. It's got a big modular board. It's got a huge number of components. You are collecting resources to build an engine. You're collecting these crystals from a meteorite that crashed on a fantasy planet, and you're these really weird adventure-y characters going around and doing it and fighting each other. But that is not all.
But wait, there's more.
There's more. Not only is it a capital K Kickstarter board game, it is one of those set in a world which had another capital K Kickstarter board game. And you can Voltron the two of them together to an ultra mega Kickstarter board game.
What?
Did you write down
games
the
all the
other
way down?
board game? What it is?
So Mythsea. Is
Oh my gosh.
is like this
Mythsea.
Mythsea.
So they're just too hard to pronounce.
Yep.
Kickstarter.
Well, there's also, I think they also had an RPG that was set in the same way.
Yeah,
Like,
I feel like we talked about this.
like there's a this is like definitely an IP that this studio or these creators are really kind of cultivating together, and it seems like they are trying to make all their games kind of plug together,
Mashed together.
The art is really cool. It's really striking, really evocative. The minis are weird. This is a huge board game. You can make it even bigger. So if any of those piqued your interest at all, then definitely check this out.
I feel like you need a lot of dedication because a lot of these capital K, capital B Kickstarter board games, they're already so much, and you have to watch videos and lay everything out.
They're detailed.
Hey, but
to
you know
cram
what?
two of them together, it's just this is my life now.
This is my hobby. These two games.
But think how accomplished you'll feel when you have conquered both of the Kickstarter board
Derek.
games.
Yeah.
So that has 4 days left, Tuesday, June 11th. Check that out. Next is Ultra Modern 5. Is that right?
Yep.
Yes.
So,
Ultra modern.
Yeah, so Ultra Modern is taking D&D's 5th edition rules and turning it into like a modern setting, sci-fi setting. I think we've touched on a couple of these that were tied specifically to Cyberpunk or whatever. This one is trying to create a very generic system. So it seems like it's trying to maybe inherit the mantle of D20 Modern. It had like out of the box, or out of the campaign, they're supposed to be supporting Cyberpunk, Weird West, urban fantasy, giant robots, espionage, deep space. Pretty much the whole gamut.
Yeah. Whatever you want to do, and if you know the rules of D&D, you can get this.
Whatever you want to do
that.
As long as it involves guns, probably.
Yeah.
Okay, sure. So Cyberpunk, Weird West.
Yeah, I have to say, I love that Weird West is
What's
a thing
Weird
now.
West?
Westworld, right?
No, not Westworld
like
at all.
magic.
It's Deadlands.
Yeah.
So do you remember Deadlands? So like Weird West it's the Wild West, but there's fantasy and monsters and steampunk kind of thing.
Yeah.
So
That's
it's not
Weird
like
West.
space futuristic.
No,
West.
No, it could be if you want it to be.
Okay.
It doesn't
Be
have
whatever
to.
you
But
want it
still
to be.
West.
But like so Deadlands, for example, was the Deadlands led to Savage Lands, so I feel like, or Savage Worlds, so I feel
Savage
like
Worlds.
Christian is here in spirit. But Deadlands was the setting where like it was the Wild West, but steampunk was also like viable, and like magic had returned, and you could cast spells by playing a game of poker.
Yeah.
And there was all this weird magic and stuff like that. And
Wait, so it's Wild Wild West.
Yeah, it is Wild Wild. It's
more weirder.
more weird.
It's weird Wild West.
I actually got to play it a long time ago when Tallulah Roosevelt was my character. But it's kind of cool because there was like shape-shifting werewolves. Like there's a whole, like, you can have a Native American society that is shape-shifting werewolves, and you can actually have somebody who is you have different kind of realms you can be in, or a spirit realm. So we kind of had to fight a feng shui master because he beat us up because he's like, now it's time to move vase, and then the mechanics would make it so he kicked our spiritual ethereal bodies.
Interesting.
Yeah, so it's definitely like if you wanted to do Wild West with a lot of fantasy, super nerdy Wild West.
Okay.
I'm experts
So,
of organizing
Ultra
things.
Modern 5 is supposed to support that. And any other basically technology firearms kind of setting that you might want to do.
Okay.
And a lot of the details in the campaign, we're talking about the customization for characters, adding new feats, classes. I think there's apparently some new element they're adding to all the things that allows you further customization.
Okay.
It's interesting to see what they do. It also has its own setting called Affinity, which is kind of a catch-all so that you can play with all these toys in one setting, it sounds like.
Oh boy.
The spin there that they had was like science fantasy on an alien megastructure.
Yes.
Which, for me, I love.
And then you can fight with Gundams.
So it sounds like if you like
Fight
D&D,
them, you are.
but you're maybe
the Gundam.
Sorry.
you're a little out on, or maybe not out, but maybe you want to try something else using the D&D rules in a different setting. Ultra Modern 5 is going to be the game for you. You have until Thursday, next Thursday, to back at June 13th.
And plus, the first edition for it is a pay what you want on Drive-Thru-RPG right now.
Yes.
Okay.
So if you want to kind of dig through the old edition to get a feel for how they're going to deliver, you have the
Okay.
opportunity to do that too.
All right. Our next one is Papillon.
Papillon.
Tell us about this.
Papillon is back. So you all may remember Papillon as being on Kickstarter, being funded, I believe, and then having the funding canceled by Kickstarter.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of hubbub, a lot of theory crafting about exactly what happened behind the scenes. I still don't think we have an answer.
Yeah.
Everything from Kickstarter cracking down to internal politics, but nevertheless, it's back with the blessing of Kickstarter now. So definitely going to go through this time. I believe it's already hit its funding goal, so it should be happening. If you haven't checked it out yet, it's again another one of these like really cool, beautiful games that has very strong theme to it. So it's got these cool 3D bushes that are like cardboard cut out, and you stand them together. So you have the bushes.
Well,
and then
so the core idea is that you are basically you're drafting tiles, and you're kind of like a drafting game to build a tableau that is a garden that has all these flowers you're growing.
For the butterflies.
Yeah, and then that allows you to put these butterflies on these 3D flowers.
Yeah. So really cool components. And I just love seeing more games like this. Like we talked about Tossy Mussy, Wingspan, just different, like trying new themes and just getting like really amazing table presence and wrapping it into a very like solid mechanical experience.
Absolutely. So, Derek, this is a game I would like too. I want to crush my opponents
with your butterflies.
my beautiful garden and butterflies. You just misunderstand me,
Chris is
sir.
multi-dimensional.
I'm going to let you know that if you want to crush someone with butterflies, it's going to take a lot of butterflies to get there.
That's fine.
So you might want to plan ahead.
You can try to suffocate them with butterflies. I think that might be the faster way to do it.
You ever see that show, The Magicians? It has the villain is like, his head is a bunch of moths.
Yep.
Oh.
It is a swarm of moths. Yeah.
No, thank you.
Well,
It's
speaking
great.
of cute games, the hamster's journey.
I'm going to hold you to the fact that you said it was cute.
What? The Papillon?
No. Speaking of cute games,
Oh yeah,
The hamsters.
yeah. I mean, people might think it's cute.
Some people, other people.
This is one that I had to include just because the puns were too good not to.
Sure.
Yes.
And I feel that the cuteness will be divisive and entertainingly so, in that this is a series of miniatures for, have you ever wanted The Hobbit, but all hamsters? Or The Lord of the Rings, but all mice?
All mice.
Because now, yes, you can. You can
Yes.
have Furin Oakencheek, Boromoose, I think that's
Mouse.
still...
Or
Or
mouse.
mouse.
No,
Lego
okay,
mouse.
now I want
Boromoose.
Boromoose. So we have
This
Boromouse.
is not a moose
This
game.
is not a moose game, it's a hamster
We
game.
have Legomouse.
See, that's a bit of a stretch.
Yeah.
And
What good pun is not a stretch?
I love puns. I am a aficionado of puns, and I'm saying that one's a bit of a stretch.
Sam Mouse?
Sam Mouse game.
Sam
I mean, they just
Mouse.
added mouse onto everything.
Yeah.
So,
and
this is a visual pun. You have to. This is a sight gag.
Mm-hmm.
So you'll have to click on the link and take a look at these miniatures
At these
to
hamsters.
understand why the table is a little divided.
Yeah,
they're very detailed.
They
are.
a good
They
word for it.
are very detailed. You are
Very
absolutely right,
detailed.
Bonsai.
I mean, for me, this is what was that one that we backed, like auto backed, the cat one?
the cats and catacombs.
Cats and Catacombs. I mean, it's a
Yeah.
little like those cats were
Not in
were
any way
cats.
like those.
What?
This is like a beautiful, horrifying,
Well,
like,
no, I know.
hamster person.
As a contrast, I'm saying like those were also RPG-ish characters as cats. These are different.
They're
pretty big, too.
they're like they're that, what's that word, anthropomorphic. So they're anthropomorphic hamsters, but more on the human side than I
Yeah.
would like.
Yeah.
Just very, very hairy people with big ears.
Yes.
You know what? So anybody out there who's running Pugmire should totally get these and use them as like horrible bad guys or something.
Oh, gross.
Pugmire.
Yeah, these are more like the villains.
Or monarchies of
I
meow.
mean, they could be ugly cute. There's a thing.
That's
Ugly cute.
That's
I
fair.
think
Yeah.
a lot of this will depend on how much you like hamsters.
That's true. That's
Yeah.
true. And like mice in
I don't know.
general.
I like hamsters.
Apparently, you don't like them enough.
She doesn't like
Oh.
hamster people.
Yeah.
I feel like. All right, next we've got. I'm just gonna move on. I'm just gonna like hard cut that. The Goblin King is
Yes.
angry. Tell us about that, Bonsai.
Goblin King is angry. So this has 7 days left to go. It's a 2 to 6 player game where you don't play the heroes. You play the goblins that these gosh darn heroes have been coming in and ravaging your people, I say. And it's a reverse tower defense game. So you work with your other fellow teammates to essentially take over the castle with all of these adventures so you're bringing the fight to the castle.
Okay.
And you can go ahead and place tiles. They don't have any figurines. It's mostly just the little meeples.
Yeah.
I
But
like
you
meeples.
can,
Custom meeples.
You can get the expansion to get the custom meeples. So
Which
you
are
can have
very, very cute.
Yes. And they have hobgoblins and all those various different forms of
cute.
goblins. And so the whole object of the game is to fight these adventurers. And also, you might actually like this game because you're supposed to kind of work but sabotage your fellow goblin
Excellent.
groups.
Very
So
goblin-y.
you are the one that the king favors the most because you're the one who brought down the castle.
As long as I can crush my opponents in some way or another.
Yes.
There's a lot of
I'm in.
crushing going on here.
Yeah.
I
A
am
lot
the
of
muscle
crushing.
master.
Crush your
That's
enemies.
true. Yes, the muscle master.
So
So this game really reminds me of Castle Panic from like the reverse direction.
yes.
Yeah.
So you have this central castle that all these armies are kind of hoarding in on. So imagine that you're playing the monsters in Castle Panic as opposed to the defenders, and then add an element where not only are you building your army and trying to send your hordes to destroy it, but you also get to kind of manipulate some of the defenders to attack your opponents at the table more than you.
Okay. I love it. That's interesting.
Yeah,
All right, so that's
looks
next
pretty cool.
Friday.
Yes.
So June 14th. So we put it on this week because it'll be probably done.
It'll be done before our show.
Before
I
our
think it's
show.
like really early in the morning Pacific time.
All righty.
Let's give people a few minutes at least, a
Right,
couple
to-
hours.
Right, so you don't have to buy right now. That first one, though, I think ends today, right? So Tessie Mussy.
Tomorrow.
Yep.
Tessie Mussy, I think it ends tomorrow.
Oh, it's not tomorrow. All right. Last Kickstarter today is Hardwired Island. Tell us about that.
So this is another Cyberpunk game, Cyberpunk RPG, and I'm again mentioning it because it seems like we've gotten a rush of Cyberpunk RPGs recently
Yeah.
that have really tackled head on a lot of the themes of Cyberpunk. So instead of just being Cyberpunk is cool, here are some rules for cyberware, go on some shadow runs.
Yeah.
That they're really kind of redirecting towards like the themes of Cyberpunk are, you know, the exploitation of workers
Yeah.
Yes.
and capitalism, you know, literally consuming people's bodies and things like that. So this is another Cyberpunk RPG that's really tackling that head on, which I thought was worth noting. So it has its own system and doesn't go into a ton of detail on that, which I would have liked to have seen more on. But, you know, numbering or just a couple of things that it called out about how, you know, it's specifically about marginalized groups trying to leverage technology to disrupt the status quo.
Oh, cool.
Or how, you know, the mechanics for the cyberware aren't just here's your new powers, but here is the financial burden that getting that cyberware put on you.
Yeah.
Or here is the social ramifications that you have. So it sounds like they're not going the kind of traditional route of getting cyberware makes you more inhuman and cooler and more powerful. It's more, this is what it does for you in society, basically.
That sounds kind of stressful.
This whole setting isn't just basically cyberpunk though. It's a retro, like if you were to take like what people thought anime-wise, what the future was going to look like, that's what it is.
In the
It's
90s.
Okay.
in the 90s,
Okay.
anime version of the future.
So
and
a little
then
Robotech-y,
more
maybe.
Robotech.
I think more Bubblegum Crisis.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, sure.
Bubblegum
Okay.
Crisis, where everybody's in this giant spaceship and you got the wheel that's turning.
Yep.
Okay.
That's the other wonderful thing that I love about Cyberpunk now is we are now well and truly into it is steampunk for people who like computers.
Sure.
Like Cyberpunk is
We have arrived.
Cyberpunk is
in the future.
you can't even
Fair.
pretend anymore that
Right.
Cyberpunk is not retro future now.
Yeah.
It is
Yeah.
definitely. Do you like
Totally.
steampunk, but
There.
you don't like gears and Steam? you
want
want your
computers?
computers?
Yeah.
What if
For
your
sure.
We got you
computers
covered.
run on Steam?
No, that's not
that's-
okay. That's weird. That's crossing the
That's
stream.
not okay.
What's the cool thing to note about this is like more like the like how we did the Jane Austen game. This one is also a very like kind of like Fate and the Burning Wheel. This is like you can have social combat.
Okay.
You can have people like, oh, I'm sorry, your eye is Gucci, I wear Prada, kind of thing, and that's like, oh, I cannot show my face anymore in this crowd because of
Interesting.
yeah.
Okay. All right. So that one has 7 days left as well. So that also ends next Friday morning. So definitely check out all of those Kickstarters. We had a lot of interesting ones this week, as with all weeks. TableTakes is where we tell you how to spend your money.
Yes.
I
what
do
we
my
do.
best to drain your wallet.
And our own wallets. I mean,
I know.
it's
Yeah.
like
That's
tough.
I almost backed that Cats and Catacombs like while we were streaming that
Yeah.
one day.
Wait, but you backed it afterwards, right?
Oh yeah, minutes afterwards.
Oh, yeah,
It's just like
this-
I had to re-enter my credit card, and I was like, oh, I guess I'll do it later.
Oh, yeah,
So
I guess
this has been Table Takes presented by Gen Con. Thank you guys so much for joining us, and thank you to my co-host for joining us as well. Bonsai, where can people find you on the interwebs?
Oh, hello. Yes, usually I am a woodworker, most just generally a maker. I'm on Twitch, Instagram, and on Twitter at Bonsai Baby for Twitch, but Bonsai Baby on Instagram and Twitter. And right now I'm currently making a medieval Link. So I got a master sword that I'm making. Everything is going to be like period focus
awesome.
link. So
That's awesome.
Sounds
That's
so
exciting.
cool. I'm so excited.
Emma, where can people find you?
I'm at Emma Larkins pretty much everywhere. Just my regular boring name.
It's not regular and boring.
But I'm on, you can go on my website, Twitter, also Twitch stream board game design, and a little bit of casual Magic as well. I'm also going to be at Origins next week. I won't be here, sadly, very sadly, but I will be there. If you are out there, definitely stop by and say hi.
Excellent. Derek Gooder.
I
Tell
am
us about
frequent
yourself.
beef.
Frequently.
Yep.
Beefy.
Yep. So I'm frequent beef on pretty much most places. I will also be at Origins next week. So if anybody is at Origins and wants to say hi or wants to talk about Gen Con stuff, we will be there and happy to discuss.
Awesome. And my name is Kristen. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram as Inner Guidance. If you're into spiritual self-help videos, I'm your gal.
Nice. And don't forget, if you've enjoyed this show, you can follow along, you can subscribe, and
hit that heart button on there. It's free.
Smash that like.
Smash that like. And also be prepared for next week because these two guys are gone and only the hype people are going to be left. The ones that go like this.
Maximum energy.
The maximum energy. So that's going to be fun.
It'll be fun. All right, so join us next week, folks. Same bat time, same bat channel. That's 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern, here on twitch.tv/GenConTV. On Mondays, you can also find the brothers Murph, who do a game night. They're always very fun to watch. Because you feel like you're in the room with them. Honestly, like you'll pop in and you'll be like, "Hey, bros," and then they will talk to you for the next 5 minutes about what's going on in your life. And so it's actually kind of like having, walk into a room with your brothers, playing up a game. And then on Wednesdays, we typically have Fireside with Peter Atkinson, which is history and untold stories of gaming. This season has been centered around Magic the Gathering. So if you're into Magic, definitely check that out. He took a break this week, and he said can't break next week as well, but we'll be back the week after that for some more interesting Magic stories and some really interesting guests as well.
Nice.
One of the stories that came out this past week really quick was to build the original booster packs. They took the playtest cards, the Magic cards, put them in a garbage bag, shook them up, and then took them back out. And that was your original booster pack. That was simulating how you would make a booster pack.
For the playtest, basically, to see
for
how
the
it would go.
playtest.
Oh my gosh.
So there's a lot of interesting stories
So
coming
no
out of
like
that show.
rarity seeding or anything, just like
Well, I mean, there was no. I mean, how
Right.
they don't know about that yet,
Right, I know.
So this is the early '90s, and
Yeah,
we're trying to come up with this stuff. So you can find those past episodes on our YouTube channel. That's youtube.com/GenCon video, along with past episodes of TableTakes and other Gen Con streams as well. If you are going to Gen Con, check out Gen Con News. We do it every Tuesday at 4 p.m. Eastern, or 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern. It's typically Derek and I, but also we bring on other folks from around the office to talk about what's going on with Gen Con, what cool merch you can buy, and then other events that we think are really interesting as well. So we've got
we take some time to kind of go through stuff, events that you should check out that still have tickets available. Because there are still plenty of things to do at Gen Con that are not sold out.
Absolutely.
Nice.
And for now, stick around for the next 10 or 15 minutes or so while we set up New Release Rundown, which is our new show in partnership these next few weeks with Mox Boarding House, which is the local board game show, or board game shop.
Board game showrooms.
Here in the Seattle area, and we're going to show you all the new releases that came out in the last week or so, why we think they're cool, and you might want to check them out, pick them up from your friendly local game store. So stick around. We'll be back in just a few minutes, and thanks for watching us today.
bye.